But Clump counters that he is more interested in listening to what everyone wants to say about Shirone. Then he asks who will speak first, and Lena offers her testimony. She concludes that after meeting with our dude yesterday, she believes that he is a gifted man. He completed his work within a short amount of time and was going to go home if it's not for this drama. She doesn't believe that Shirone would have any bad intentions toward Leon that could tarnish their family name. At that, Clump turns to Lai, who is quite irritated to be a witness. He declares that Shirone is a fool, which makes his father happy, but Lord Oyen's face darkens when Lai says that it doesn't concern him. Lai clearly states that he doesn't care who Leon hangs out with. He only cares about going to the palace to conduct his exams, which stuns Lena, who thinks he is really her brother. At that, Clump excitedly remarks how entertaining it is to be with family. Then he turns to Timoran, who had observed the matter the longest. When everyone turns to Timoran, Louis signals him that no matter what, their opinions don't matter, because they are nothing but servants. However, Timoran honestly answers that Shirone not only finished his work without any mistakes, but he also completed it 6 months ahead of the deadline, which frustrates everyone with his honest words. Clump asks if he knows about both boys' friendship. He answers that he does know they became closer, but wasn't aware of their friendship. According to him, if Shirone were some impulsive boy, he wouldn't be able to classify this much work in time. Everyone is still nervous and anticipates the verdict. Lena thinks that at this moment, only their father is adamant about punishing Shirone. Everyone turns to him. However, the table turns when it's Clump who says no. Shocked, everyone looks at him. But he clarifies that it's not like he has any problem with their friendship. But it should be ended there. He adds that they have a position in the palace and there are Lai's upcoming exams. Besides, they can't abandon the people who depend on them. Then he turns to Shirone and asks if he can understand that. But Leon is seething with anger. Seeing his grandson, Clump thinks, although he's eager to see Leon's fire, there are many people depending on them, and they can't tarnish their reputation. Then he turns to Shirone and gives his verdict that he won't be punished for his deeds. But he needs to end this friendship here. Everyone's faces darken when Shirone answers negatively. He clarifies that he can go away if he's in Leon's way. But he can't stop thinking of him as his friend. He is eager to do anything to keep it that way. Meanwhile, Leon clenches his sword with anger and shame at hearing his words, because for a moment, he doubted him. He now understands the words of Master Kate after seeing him. He concludes that it shouldn't have been a negotiation in the first place. With that, he raises his sword with a declaration. Seeing him, everyone, especially Lena, tries to stop him, but it's no use, because the next moment, Leon pierces his sword into the ground while taking a knight's oath, declaring that he will serve as Shirone's sword from now on. His father is the first to curse him after seeing this display. Basically, the knight oath is from the time of the founding of the Kingdom of Tormia at the hand of King Adolf I. As a newly established kingdom, it needed power to fend off other nations. So instead of purging the kings, they gave power to rule their land under the knight oath. This process is also what makes the receiver of such an oath noble if they accept it. Leon looks at Master Kate with hope in his eyes, who face palms, realizing that he didn't give him the sword for this purpose. Shirone immediately sits at Leon's level and worries about him, but then he turns to Clump, who smiles widely at the display while commenting that Leon must be thinking highly of Shirone to swear his sword to him. Then he asks the question whether it's the esteem of his brilliance, or if Leon thinks Shirone is brilliant compared to him. At that, Leon exclaims that a sword is not something that can be judged, but something to protect. Everyone is quite disappointed to hear his answer. Clump laughs loudly, calling him immature, and he pities Shirone for having a dull sword like Leon's, which prompts a protest from him. Then Clump walks to Shirone and asks him to get a haircut. He pats his shoulder and tells him to take good care of Leon. In return, our boy is grateful for his support to their friendship. Then Clump turns to Louis, stating that both boys are sword friends, so they can't send Shirone off. So he orders his head butler to bring Shirone's parents there. The servants let out a sigh of relief to see that particular event and the mystery of life in the nobles. After a while, both boys are in Leon's room, and Leon is exhilarated, while remembering the faces of everyone when he took the oath. Shirone reminds him that he didn't need to take one for him. Leon sits up and seriously states that he didn't take the oath because Shirone was his friend. Instead, Shirone had the power to attract people to him. His statement flusters the boy, who, in return, asks him to work harder with his sword if he is really going to protect him. However, this statement hurts Leon's pride and feelings. While he is down, Lena interrupts, coming to confirm whether Leon really lost to Shirone in a sword fight. Already disheartened, Leon tells her to get out, which is reprimanded by Shirone, who reminds him of Lena's help. Lena, wearing a prideful expression, takes a seat beside them and states that she has useful information for them. When asked, she clarifies that their father and grandfather are discussing both boys' futures. They plan to send them to Kaizan School of Swordsmanship after hearing that Shirone is gifted with a sword. Our dude is quite surprised to hear this. Seeing his expression, Lena consoles him, assuring him that he is already part of the family, so they are going to invest in him. She has already told them about all of his talents. Leanne, however, doesn't like the idea of going to school and protests against it. In response, he gets a kick from her, as she reminds him that this is happening because of him, so he needs to bear the consequence. But Leanne clarifies that Shirone doesn't want to go to a swordsmanship school. He wants to become a mage, and can already enter the spirit zone. Lena is surprised to hear this and looks at our dude for confirmation. The next moment, she is quite happy to tease her little brother, mocking that he has lost to a mage, which makes him quite the failure of a knight. Frustrated, he asks her to get out of his room. A while later, Shirone explains to Lena how he won the fight against her brother while entering the spirit zone. She is quite impressed by his strategy. Shirone, however, is uncertain about her words. She then explains that she has already heard that his concentration in the spirit zone proves his strength as a mage. It's quite impressive for our boy to maintain it during a duel fight. He is quite embarrassed to hear her praise, which makes both siblings think that he won't be getting a girlfriend with his shy attitude. Anyway, she concludes that she will talk to their grandfather about Shirone's interest in magic. But Leon will definitely be going to swordsmanship school. At that, he asks about Master Kate. She informs him that Master Kate's contract has already ended, and he left this morning. While thinking about his words, Leon feels quite sad about his instructor. At that moment, Louis knocks on their door and asks Shirone to go meet his parents, as they have arrived at the manor. Our boy's face brightens upon hearing this, and he rushes outside. Meanwhile, on the stairs, the servants ask him to take it easy while calling him master. He protests against being called that, insisting that he is not nobility. However, they protest back, while saying that they can't risk their heads and jobs over it, even if he won't tell anyone. A while later, he stands in front of the reception room and immediately steps inside. As soon as he sees his parents, he rushes to hug them emotionally. After they settle down from the emotional drama, his father expresses concern about whether Oyent wanted to extend his stay. At that, he answers that he is going to get an opportunity. The next moment, Shirone tells everything to his parents. They have disbelieving expressions upon hearing his story. Then his father bursts into laughter over the whole incident and desperately asks if there is something else he isn't telling them. Despite Shirone insisting that he is telling the truth, his father doesn't believe him and assumes that the house of nobility has ruined his son. Before he can act even more like a crazy father, Bishop Ogent, along with his blue-haired kids, comes to greet Shirone's parents. Panicked, both of his parents immediately greet them back while apologizing for their manners. Lena asks whether they are informed about the situation. Vincent is completely shocked to learn that what Shirone was saying is actually true. After a while, Shirone's family settles with Oyent's family at the grand dining table. Shirone's parents are quite nervous during dinner and tea time due to their lack of proper etiquette when dining with nobles. Vincent, who is shaking with nerves, doesn't understand the knight's oath, nor does he understand the reason behind such special treatment. So he gathers courage and voices his concern, questioning whether someone with noble blood like Leon will likely take a path meant for his son. Bishop Ogent acknowledges his concern while explaining that, as a house of swordsmen, they take their knight's oath quite seriously. Besides, it's a matter of Leon's pride. Not only this, he also assures them of the support they will provide to Shirone. Clump is quite pleased with his son's speech, though he tries to brush it off. Meanwhile, our boy is stunned to see the principal and pride of the Oyent family, who accepts Shirone, who is a peasant, into their family with open arms. Now, Bishop Ogent comes to the main point, which is regarding the gifted talent of our dude, who is already able to enter the spirit zone. He then deadpans that Shirone can go to one of the big magic schools to accomplish his dream of becoming a mage. He thoughtfully adds that though it's not mandatory for our boy to go to school to become a mage, Althea's school is reputable enough. At that, Clump reminds him about their audience, and he snaps out of his daydream, turning to Vincent and firmly informing him that it's Shirone's way to become a mage. Vincent and his family are quite stunned to hear something they never expected to achieve in their life. However, there is an obstacle for Shirone to enter the school: his status as a commoner. That special school only accepts children of nobles. Clump informs them of the solution to this problem, which is for the Ogent family to adopt Shirone. He then slides the legal papers to them while informing them that they have a distant cousin who doesn't have kids yet and can adopt Shirone, but it's only on paper to proceed legally. Vincent's eyes widen to hear this. He doesn't believe that a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity is being given to their son, but he can't shake the feeling that Shirone will be taken away from them. He turns to his boy, wishing he will say something to make this decision easier. Seeing the blank look on our guy's face, Vincent assumes he must want him to sign it. But Shirone clenches his father's hand and declares that they won't accept it. Lena reasons with him, while saying that he will always be his parents' son. It's only for records. Clump also tries to coax him, but Shirone replies that if he needs to change his father, he will happily live as a peasant. Everyone is stunned by their argument as Clump reminds him that he won't go to school as a peasant and become a mage. Shirone retorts that he will accept his fate. Angrily, Clump stands up and shouts at him to understand that things are not that easy, and that sacrifices must be made for the sake of fulfilling their dreams. In the end, he asks whether Shirone was ever serious about it. Our guy calmly replies that it might be true, but he can't be where he is without his parents. If he's the fruit, then they are the roots. His ability to read and his chance to come this far all become possible because of his parents' effort. He can't compare their efforts to this single opportunity. In the end, he concludes that he will likely die if separated from his roots, and his only parents are sitting right there. Clump, while looking at him, observes there's more to it than meets the eye. Suddenly Vincent bows and asks them to adopt their son. Before Clump can say a complete sentence, Vincent deadpans that Shirone is not their son. Shirone's mother is tense to see her husband confessing everything, but he continues that the couple couldn't have children and got him by chance. He adds his suspicion that Shirone might already be of noble blood, so, by adopting him, he will meet his roots instead of severing them. Bishop thinks about this possibility. Shirone turns to his father, who tells him that now it is time for him to know the truth. However, his eyes widen when Shirone confesses that he already knows the truth. He deadpans that he never let them know because he always wanted to believe that he was the child of one mother and father. But now Vincent wants him to be the son of 6 parents. Vincent tries to convince him that he can't just let their boy give up his dream. Our dude replies that he is not giving up. He will work harder until the next chance comes up, but he doesn't want to be abandoned for the second time in his life. At that, father and son join hands, both shaking with overwhelming emotions. At that, his father apologizes to him while crying and hugging him furiously. Everyone watches the emotional scene in front of them. At that, Clump tells him how sometimes parents do something for their child that hurts them. Now Bishop should know after having 4 kids of his own. While looking at Leon's teary face, he asks his father to somehow persuade Alpheus. But Clump reminds him that Alpheus is as stubborn as an ox. At that, Bishop reminds him that he owes him a favor. Then his father grins nervously, saying that he might pull something off from Alpheus, even though they are both men of principles. Meanwhile, his parents are allowed to live in the manor by the Ogent head's permission. Leon is going to leave for Kaizen school in 3 days. His father is still sorry towards him, and he knows it will be like this for many years. But the good thing is that Leon and he finally become free friends and spend time together. After 3 days, Leon is found crying vigorously at the thought of separating from his friend and going to school. Shirone tries to console him while saying that they will keep in touch by letter. But then Leon seriously pats his shoulder and asks him to be a mage, as he is going to be the greatest mage to protect him. At that, Lena hits him, saying that they are more worried about him. Then she turns to our boy, asking him to stay, while Clump enrolls him in mage school. Then he thanks her for their kindness, which makes her think that, even though he seemed like a cute little brother at first glance, he might become more than that. Even in a hard situation, he holds his ideals tightly. With this thought in her mind, she is going to ask our boy for more when he graduates. But she stops herself, as he is going to live in a magical world. She then pats his shoulder, and expresses her belief that he will surely become a mage, and asks him to take care of Leon. Then she drags Leon into one carriage, and Shirone and his family enter into another. Leon then shouts for him from his carriage, and our boy immediately looks outside. Leon asks him to blow everyone out of the water when he becomes a mage. He grins and asks him to do the same. These are the stories of 2 boys who meet, and their separation seems like the end of the world. However, meanwhile, at Alpheus School of Magic, Clump is waiting for the headmaster for 30 minutes when he finally arrives. Clump asks whether he is getting his desired answer. Alpheus replies with a smile that even with their 50 years of friendship, he can't give him that favor. So Clump tries to remind him about the favor he has given him, but Alpheus retorts that sentiment is not going to work here. The headmaster adds that the school's special selection process is not something nobles can interfere with, as he has already piled off special requests. Clump is quite irritated by his response. He argues that this case is different. Alpheus acknowledges it by the look on Clump's face. Clump, on the other hand, smugly tells him that Shirone is not a useless guy, but when he first met him, he could see a younger version of Alpheus in him. Alpheus asks about the issue because if our boy is such a talented guy, he can easily be enrolled in that school. Clump deadpans that he is not a noble. With a grave face, the headmaster immediately recognizes Shirone and asks whether he has blonde hair and blue eyes to confirm. Afterwards, Clump tells him everything that happened and laughs at the fact that Shirone has left that opportunity to become a noble. This incident makes Alpheus realize that Shirone must know the nature of cause and effect. At that, Clump agrees with him, as many people don't understand and sever their roots. Consequently, their world is destroyed by the ground they take in new opportunities and disown what they are made up of. Clump concludes that Shirone is someone who never stops following what was right. Then he asks whether he reminds Alpheus of his younger self. Alpheus reminds him that someone like him sometimes also becomes others' judge, which makes it a dangerous business. Now Clump understands that Alpheus hasn't forgiven himself. He adds that Alpheus has done what was necessary and raised the talents of many, so it's time to let go. He then thoughtfully expresses that it is his pride that stops him from forgiving himself. That's why he developed this school, to stop any other child from going down the same path as he did. Besides, he is also concerned that if Shirone is just like him, can he guarantee that he won't take the same path? Clump states how Alpheus was a genius with his magic, that he was called the Light of the House of Mirhi. Yes, he had taken the wrong path which ended terribly, but now he should see where he is. He then teases him about how he became the old headmaster of the school, which prompts a remark from the headmaster that he became a level 3 general who didn't know how to swing a sword. They both laugh for a while, but then Alpheus turns serious. He says that how every decision is going to have some effect. Clump asks whether he thinks that it's fate that he met Shirone 4 years ago. He grins and replies that he doesn't believe in fate. Then he thinks about the young Shirone he met, and asks himself whether it is really fate that the boy he met 4 years later honed his talent in the meantime. He finally agrees to get Shirone's admission. After 3 months in spring, 17-year-old Shirone is ready to go to school and asks his parents to wish him luck. His mother hugs him immediately, feeling happy for him. He is nervous about his hairstyle, but she consoles him, saying it's what Lena suggested. Then he turns to his father, who is about to remind him of something. Sensing his intention, Shirone immediately refuses to be kissed at the age of 17. But Vincent kisses his forehead and hugs him, expressing how proud he is of him. His parents are offered to stay in the city by Bishop Oyent, but Vincent declines, saying he will stay nowhere but in the mountains. They also give Shirone money for living expenses, no matter how much he tries to refuse. Besides, they didn't tell anyone in the town about him going to magic school. As he looks at his parents while bidding them goodbye, he understands that they decline to stay near him so that they won't trouble him. Timorin is ready with a carriage and he immediately hops up and shouts for his parents. The journey to the school is quite awkward. Finally, after a while, they are in front of the school. After getting down from the carriage, Timorin informs him that his school fees and supplies expenses will be processed through him. Shirone thanks him for it. He even thanks him for what he had done back in the manor for him, as he wouldn't have gotten here without his support. When Shirone thanks him for his kindness, Timorin sternly reminds him that he is still a commoner, and regardless of his effort, he won't become a noble. However, he adds that he has been given the opportunity that wasn't given to anyone, so there will be people who will look down on him because of it. All he needs to do is ignore such people in order to graduate from the school in one piece. After saying that, he turns his back to our hero, who thanks him for the advice. Timorin asks him to follow him as he registers him. While going ahead, Shirone wonders what he will learn in this school and what kind of people he will meet. On their way ahead, the guards declare in a chant that school safety is their priority. After registering him at the school, Timorin tells him that he is going to leave, and he can write him if he wants anything. When Timorin leaves, our boy wonders whether someone will pick him for the next procedure, but instead of waiting, he decides to look around. He looks at the class system, which is called the class of green. The senior class has 30 students out of 420 total students. Then he is shocked to see that the total number of graduates for the year is only 10. His shock is interrupted by the headmaster, who greets him and asks whether he remembers that they met before. Shirone answers affirmatively and thanks him for what he had taught him that day. Then both of them walk ahead. During this, the headmaster informs him that he is going to take an entrance exam, but Shirone doesn't feel he has learned anything. The headmaster consoles him that this exam is an evaluation to see which class he is going to be placed in. Then he asks whether Shirone knows how to enter into the spirit zone. When Shirone answers affirmatively, the headmaster is quite impressed that he has figured out this trick on his own. He wants to teach him the basics no matter how late he started. Besides, he understands that if he brings him to the testing ground now, filled with 10-year-olds, his ego will be hurt. So, he decides to show the school to our boy and lead him ahead. They enter into the classes of young students, which is called the novice class. This consists of classes 10 to 8. He looks around at the young students with amazement. He doesn't believe they all know how to use magic. But the headmaster leads him to the advanced class next, which is from classes 7 to 4. He looks around at the students who are about his age. When he observes 2 students talking about some magical theory, he is totally stupefied that he doesn't understand a word they are talking about. Suddenly, they see an explosion coming from one of them, and a red-haired girl apologizes to the headmaster. She explains that she tried to experiment with amplifying sound but made some mistakes. The headmaster suggests a solution to the problem, and she promises to try again. He is astonished to know that no one tried to stop her experiment. Looking around him, he feels like he has entered into another world. After a while, they are in front of the bulletin board. The headmaster informs him that this shows the rank of the students in the advanced class. He reads that Amy Karmas is the top student. He knows Karmas is from a first-class noble family. He is amazed that all of these people have the same talent as him. Seeing Amy's name, he is determined to compete for number 1 position as well. Then he hears someone calling Amy's name, which immediately gets his interest. He looks at the red-haired girl, and his heart thuds loudly. He immediately recognizes the girl who once tried to bully him with her goons on the street. She glances at him but is immediately distracted by Sariel, her friend, who asks her to slow down. Meanwhile, our boy nervously hopes that she won't notice him. Sariel, however, notices him and tells Amy about this new student who is quite handsome. Amy also notices that she has somehow seen him somewhere. Sariel immediately asks whether she is interested in him. She declines the claim while insisting that she really has seen him somewhere. But Sariel doesn't buy her excuse, which she declines firmly. Everyone is looking at Amy Karmas, who is not only the top student in the advanced class, but also the popular one, with her own fan clubs consisting of young and old boys. But no one knows her dark secret except our boy, who is trembling in fear because his own secret can be revealed by her. After a while, they are inside the magic school's testing ground number 3. The headmaster tells our boy to observe the kid in front of him and see what he is doing, so that he will have an idea of the entrance exam. He adds that once the student enters into the spirit zone, the symbols on the floor will have some meaning to them. Based on their meanings, teachers will analyze the student's spirit zone density, flexibility, and much more. He warns him to answer the questions honestly, which he agrees to. Professor Thad asks student Kami whether he can use magic. Kami answers that he can make things float in the air. Then, he asks Kami to enter into the spirit zone, which he complies with. After he enters into the spirit zone, Thad asks about the numbers he sees, which he answers as 6. The headmaster replies that it means Kami's diameter of the spirit zone is 6 meters. Then, another teacher asks about the color he sees, which he answers as red. The teacher marks him as a pulsar. Then another teacher asks whether he can see a large tower, which he confirms. They also ask about the temperature of the spirit zone. After a while, both teachers discuss how exceptional the students of this year are. Then it is our dude's turn. To see him, Thad thinks he must be from an ordinary family for starting too late and borrowing from the Oyent family. However, Sienna thinks he might be facing quite a competition in the future. Thad asks whether our boy can perform magic, which he answers negatively. Thad is disappointed with his answer, as most students learn magic on their own. But the headmaster thinks that it must be true, but children of nobles have proper education for this, which our boy lacks. Thad again asks him whether he can enter into the spirit zone, which he answers affirmatively. This time Thad is relieved to get this answer. Our guy then enters into the spirit and sees numbers of symbols around him. Thad asks him to tell them the first number he can see. But our boy doesn't answer the question, which irritates the professor. At that, the headmaster encourages him to answer honestly, as he is not going to rank in this test based on his answers. Shirone answers that he can see numbers, but they are too far away from him to see. Thad coaxes him to sense the numbers. Our dude answers that he can see them, but they are moving further and further away. Thad compromises, telling him to just mention any numbers he can see. Shirone concentrates for a while and answers that he can see 314, which confuses the professors as they didn't install this number there. Sienna asks whether he is sure, which he confirms. She immediately understands that he can see the numbers of Pi, which means his spirit zone is 30 meters. Then another teacher asks about the color he can see, and he answers that he can see blue, which marks him as Swarmer. But the teachers are wondering how his spirit zone can be this large. The headmaster also understands what Clump had seen in our hero. After marking his category, another teacher asks about the quantity of the balls he can see. Our guy wonders whether they are talking about orbs. He senses them, and there are 867. Everyone is quite shocked to hear this. The headmaster realizes with dread that this quantity could be dangerous. Sienna asks about the cold temperature he can feel. Shirone answers that he is shivering from the cold. Then they review his spirit zone, while noting how abnormally large it is. One professor then asks the new students to wait outside so they can place them in a suitable classes. Once the students are outside, the teachers start discussing the our boy's spirit zone, which is not only large but also has a high density. Another teacher adds that he also doesn't have any amplification skills while comparing him to mountain monks. Thad objects, while questioning whether he lies about his spirit zone. It's ridiculous that he has such density at 17 years old. Maybe he is making it up to avoid embarrassment. Sienna objects, while saying that Shirone doesn't know about these things and has no reason to lie. Besides, everyone knows that they have put fake numbers as an error code, so she doesn't believe Shirone is getting that attention, which irritates Thad. The headmaster steps forward and asks about the class where they are about to place Shirone. Sienna, who is a level 6 mage, answers that class 6 learns spirit zone development, while basic magic comes from class 5. so she suggests placing him in Class 5 since Shirone's spirit zone is already developed. Another level 6 mage, Thad, doesn't agree with her, arguing that since Shirone doesn't know any magic, he should learn the fundamentals first. Sienna quips that not everyone follows his path, which irritates him. He accuses Sienna of wanting to place Shirone in her class just to take credit. Sienna doesn't disagree but argues back that wanting to teach a gifted student is not a crime. While they are arguing, other teachers discuss whether they should place Shirone in Class 10, but another teacher disagrees, while saying that it could discourage him and suggests observing him a bit more. Another teacher proposes placing him in Class 7 and upgrading him if needed. The headmaster agrees with this suggestion. Basically, the school has a class system based on student capabilities. Novice students develop their spirit zone in classes 10 to 8. Classes 7 to 4 are for advanced students who learn basic magic alongside spirit zone development. Classes 3 to 1 are senior classes where students undergo rigorous training to become professionals. Now today, our boy is going to Class 7, and everyone is looking at him with curiosity as he is placed there. He introduces himself to the class. He is happy to finally start his schooling. Basically, Althea School of Magic uses the entirety of 75,423 square meters for its campus. It has 33 buildings, including dormitories, and 40 training grounds that facilitate students until 5 p.m. After that, students can use their time however they please. Besides, libraries are available 24 hours a day. Students also form research clubs for activities and further learning in their favorite subjects. Shirone, checking his coursebooks, concludes that the classes are quite hard and cover many subjects at a high level. Not only that, but even noble children, who are educated from a young age, find this course difficult. However, our dude is determined not to fall behind. His study of numerous books on history is etched in his mind, which also serves as the backbone of every subject and study. Later, our dude stands up as the class ends. He has a spirit zone practice class in the afternoon, but he doesn't know where it is held, so he ponders whether he should ask someone. He looks around and finds a girl his age, which he is thankful for. He asks her about the location of the training ground, but she is clearly startled to be addressed by him. He understands that she is another introvert. She answers that it is integrated training ground too. When asked further, she clarifies that twice a week, all advanced classes practice together, and that today is their orientation class. First he understands, but then he suddenly realizes that Amy might be there as well. After a while, every student is fussing over Amy, who is walking confidently ahead. While looking at the display, Shirone understands that she must be a popular student, so he should avoid her path. He hopes that she will advance to the senior class soon. Besides, there are also minimal chances of them interacting, so she might not notice him. Miss Romy, who is their spirit zone teacher, addresses the class and introduces herself. She says that every semester, some students level up to the advanced class, but now she sees mostly familiar faces. However, she notices Shirone and adds that there is a new face. Our dude suddenly finds himself very nervous to get this attention. Miss Romy immediately asks Shirone to introduce himself, which makes him gulp. Sariel is also looking at him, while Amy looks visibly bored. Shirone introduces himself nervously. Sariel is happy to finally know our boy's name. Meanwhile, Amy is still confused about where she has seen Shirone. His face is ingrained in her red eyes, but she has never heard his name before. Then, the girls discuss how the professor is rooting for our dude because of his high test grade. Suddenly, Amy realizes something and immediately asks about his house. The next moment, she remembers the time when she met him as a child. As soon as she realizes it, she curses under her breath. The House of Karmas has a special trait called the Red Eye, which allows the wielder perfect recollection of a state of mind at any given moment, rendering the concept of study useless. In this aspect, Amy, as the youngest daughter of the house, is quite more talented than others. However, with her genius, she has explored almost everything, and she gets bored immediately. She scoffs at how her house has done nothing for her ability, but she is sure she can go on without them. So, she decides to do whatever she likes and associates with the rowdy people of the town. But she comes to her senses after going astray following an encounter with our boy. Now, looking at the same boy, she feels quite startled. The girls around her are shaken to hear her curse, but she makes an excuse about being bored. She knows that her red eye can't be wrong, but she can't believe she is seeing him in front of her and wonders how that boy even got into the school of nobles. After a while, she is visibly shaken by our dude's presence at school, because she is ashamed of her past. She has come this far without anyone knowing the darkness of her past. She hopes that Shirone won't remember anything, but then, she recalls a memory from 5 years ago, and her imagination runs wild. She imagines how our dude will reveal that she was hanging out with thugs in that alleyway. Not only that, but he will also expose how she wanted those thugs to check him out. With determination, she decides that she can't let that happen. It was a misunderstanding, and she won't let him reveal her secret to anyone, regardless of the price.